let's dive into some of the most misunderstood and, honestly, most important figures in all of history, the Old Testament prophets.
But first, let's just get it out there. Why should we care? I mean, these are figures from over 2,500 years ago. What could they possibly have to say to our world today? It's a fair question.
Well, to get an answer, we can actually look to the New Testament. In this incredible scene from the book of Luke, the resurrected Jesus himself takes his followers back through the prophets to explain his own mission. That's how foundational their message was. For him, he was the whole point, the very person they were all pointing towards.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll look at who these people actually were. I'm calling them the called ones. Then we'll get into their job description as messengers of the covenant. After that, we'll break down their four-part message and wrap up with their ultimate legacy of judgment and hope.
Okay, first up, the called ones. We got to get this straight from the start. We tend to think of prophets as, mystical fortune tellers, but that's not really what they were about at all. Their role was so much deeper.
Let's start with the word itself. The original Hebrew word is nabi, and its most likely meaning is a called one. Now, that little detail is a huge deal. It tells you right away this wasn't a career choice. It was a direct, often life-altering commission from God.
I mean, think about Isaiah. His calling wasn't some quiet nudge. It was this jaw-dropping vision of God's glory that completely rocked his world. And in that moment, when he hears the call, "Who will go for us?" his response is just instant. "Here I am, send me."
But then you have Jeremiah, and his experience was totally different. He was just a kid when he got the call, and his first instinct was, "No way, I'm too young, I don't know what to say." But God basically tells him, "Don't worry about that. I'll put my words right in your mouth." He was going to be a direct spokesman.
And Amos, he makes this point crystal clear. He says, look, I wasn't a prophet. I wasn't part of some prophet in training program. He was a farmer, a herdsman, just doing his job. And then, as he puts it, the Lord took me and gave him a message. It happened to him.
And this gets to the heart of what made a prophet a true prophet. It all came down to the source of their message. A true prophet had, as Jeremiah said, stood in the counsel of God. It's like they were ambassadors reporting back from a divine heavenly meeting. The false prophets, they were just making stuff up, speaking from their own imaginations.
So that brings us to their main job. They were messengers of the covenant. And to really get what the prophets were talking about, you have to understand the framework they were working in. Think of it as a kind of divine constitution for the nation of Israel. The whole story of the Old Testament is built around these huge binding agreements, or covenants. You've got the one with Noah to preserve the earth, the one with Abraham for a people and a land, the big one with Moses at Sinai, which came with laws, blessings for following them, and curses for not. And then the covenant with David for a lasting kingdom. The prophets, they were basically covenant enforcement officers. Their job was to remind the people of the deal they'd made with God.
Okay, so if that's the context, what did their message actually sound like? Their books can feel pretty complex, I know. But their core message almost always follows this clear four-part pattern. Let's call it the prophetic playbook.
The playbook has four main steps. It always kicks off with step one, a direct accusation that you've broken the covenant. You can think of the prophets as God's prosecuting attorneys, and their first job was to get up there and just lay out the charges against the people. They used this specific format called a prophetic judgment speech. And it always had two parts. First, the indictment, which was the list of accusations, all the ways the people had broken the rules of the covenant with Moses. And second, the announcement of judgment, the specific punishment that was coming because of it. The prophet Micah gives us this super direct, almost chilling example. He's talking to the corrupt leaders of Jerusalem, calling them out for their injustice. Then he delivers the verdict. Therefore, because of you, Jerusalem will become a heap of ruins. It's a clear cause and effect. The punishment was a direct result of their actions. But the story didn't just end with an accusation. And this is key. This brings us to step 2, a call to repent. The Hebrew word here is shub, and it literally just means to turn around. This was a real offer, a genuine chance for the people to completely change course and avoid the disaster that was coming. And that leads us to the final two parts of this whole pattern, judgment and hope. So what happens when that call to turn around is ignored? Well, step 3 becomes inevitable. Judgment is coming. But even in their darkest warnings, the prophets never, ever ended with despair. They always included step 4. Restoration is promised.
They were always pointing forward to a future hope, one that was rooted in what they called a new covenant.
Jeremiah 31 paints the clearest picture of this new deal. It promised two incredible things. First, total and complete forgiveness. Sins would just be forgotten. But second, and this is the real game changer, God would give them the ability to obey in the future. He would write His law on their hearts and pour out His Spirit on them, creating a genuine, internal desire to follow Him. It was a promise of total transformation from the inside out.
So that leaves us with this final thought. The prophets laid out this powerful pattern: clear standards for justice, real accountability for breaking them, a chance to change, but ultimately this unbreakable hope in restoration and real transformation. So the question for us is, how does that ancient cycle of accountability and hope still echo in our modern ideas about justice, mercy, and redemption?